Hello from Jonathan and from me. Welcome to Friday's Anglia Tonight.
First tonight, a stark warning to the villagers worried about the health implications of a former chemical works on their doorstep.
Villagers living in Hauxton in Cambridgeshire have complained of ill health since the decontamination of the site began in March.
Well, as they launched a new campaign group at a meeting last night, one doctor warned about the potential dangers surrounding the site. Martin Stew is at the meeting and joins us now. Martin.
Well, on a glorious night like this evening, most people would like to be outside enjoying the sunshine, but not here in Hauxton. Just 300 yards in that direction is the former Bayer chemical factory, and as they develop the land which they're digging up to build new homes, it releases chemically odours into the air. Now, the Environment Agency and the developers say that those smells are nothing sinister. In fact, they are just smells. But several local people have complained about becoming ill. And last night I attended a packed meeting here at St Edmund's Church, where several guest speakers said they had very acute concerns. Since development of the Bayer factory began back in March, villagers have complained of chemical smells, dry eyes, sore throats, and some even of suffering breathing difficulties.
Even staying away from the site, I'm struggling to get better. I just want them to do something before someone who's less fit than me has the same problems as me.
For the last 60 years, the factory has made pesticides and chemicals, many of which are now illegal. Last night, hundreds crammed into the church in the village to discuss their concerns. Dr. Damien Downing, one of the speakers and president of the British Society for Ecological Medicine, told me his fears.
It's conceivable at worst that you could be looking at another Corby, where a number of children were born with malformations and so forth. If the people here are reporting unpleasant smells, and if they're getting all sorts of symptoms, which I understand they are, then they must be being exposed, as far as I can see, to a range of chemicals. And you only have to go to the South Cambridgeshire Council's website to see the list of chemicals that have been identified on the site, and frankly it's scary.
Corby Borough Council faces a bill of nearly £10 million after being found negligent over the dismantling of steelworks there. One of the consultants who gave evidence in that trial says he's worried about the clean-up in Hauxton. Well, nobody from South Cambs District Council was available for interview today because they've been in meetings. Meetings, ironically, with Andrew Lansley, the Health Secretary and local MP. But in a statement they said,
costs were not a consideration. The application documents were assessed on technical merit and on the basis of whether the methodology proposed would address the significant pollutants linkages that exist on the site.
The excavation work is being done to prepare the land for 380 new homes to be built by Harrow Estates. The Environment Agency, who work as the independent regulator, monitor the air at least once a day and say,
expert toxicologists from the Health Protection Agency have advised that the levels of compounds identified so far are unlikely to pose a risk to health.
Last week, the managing director of Harrow Estates told Anglia Tonight she'd be happy to live next to the site.
I have absolute confidence in my technical team, in the technical team that are working on behalf of Harrow. I would be happy, yes.
But for those who actually do live next to the site, an unlikely risk to health is not nearly good enough.
Well, let's head back to Martin now. Martin, plenty of people feeling the heat on this one, I suppose, at the moment. The council, the developers and even the Environment Agency.
Yeah, it's certainly adding pressure to them, Jonathan. One thing that's worth saying is that the whole village, nearly the whole village, have rallied round and got behind the Hawks Air pressure group who had the meeting in the church behind me last night. Now, it's also worth stressing that the Environment Agency, the council, district council and the developers are adamant that they've carried out all the relevant rigorous tests, and they're very happy that everything is safe in terms of what's going on. But the question the villagers keep asking me is, would you be happy for your family to live next to this site?
Question indeed. Thanks very much, Martin. Now, MPs must have hoped that a new parliament would mean an end to the expenses scandal, but apparently not.
Figures released by the parliamentary authorities have revealed some politicians made further substantial claims after the scandal broke.
Under the microscope, the MP for Mid-Bedfordshire, Nadine Dorries, former Labour Minister Barbara Follett and the former Luton MP Margaret Moran. Earlier, we spoke to ITV political correspondent Jerry Foley.
Well, these claims relate to claims made between July and December last year when the old rules were still in existence. But as you say, some familiar names have again caught some of the headlines. The Mid-Bedfordshire MP Nadine Dorries, well, she successfully claimed nearly £18,000 for the services of a marketing company run by a woman who's a friend of hers. And that means that in total, the taxpayer has now paid more than £50,000 to help Nadine Dorries pay for these marketing services. And then turning now to the cases of two former MPs, the Luton South, Margaret Moran, of course, who infamously had all those problems with her dry rot payment. Well, in the last 6 months of last year, she managed to successfully claim for more than £10,000 in legal support to a third-party individual. She also claimed nearly £14,000 in employment claimants as well. And finally, to Barbara Follett, the former Stevenage MP, who had to pay back £42,000 because of the mobile security patrols around the house. Well, she claimed more than £3,000 for insurance contents.
Jerry, it was hoped, of course, that we would hear no more of the expenses scandal. Do you feel that the systems are now in place, that the rules are clear for the MPs, that we won't have to see this anymore?
Absolutely. The new rules are very tight. The biggest change, of course, is that MPs can now only claim for renting property. So no more second homes. There's an allowance for existing MPs for 2 years to sort that out. But new MPs, very strict rules. So I don't think we're going to see this again. In fact, the rules are now so strict that some of the new MPs are finding it difficult to pre-fund some of their commitments.
Jerry Foley, thanks very much.
Well, now in other news, two teenagers who killed a young father in Luton to rob him have been jailed for life. Richard Long was lured to the Lucy Farm estate thinking he was buying cannabis. Simeon Johnson, who pulled the trigger, was sentenced to a minimum of 22 years, while another youth who supplied the gun and is known only as M for legal reasons was told he'd serve at least 26 years. Johnson and M were captured on CCTV just before the killing. The judge, John Bevan, said the use of firearms to further your pathetic ambitions of money and greed is uncivilised, unacceptable and something close to barbaric.
The mother of the victim of the infamous road rage killer, Kenneth Noy, has told Anglia News she hopes her son's killer will die in jail. Tony Cameron lives with her husband Ken near Lowestoft. 14 years ago, Kenneth Noy stabbed their son Stephen to death in front of his fiancée on the M25 motorway in Kent. Today, Noy lost an appeal against the minimum 16 years he has to serve before he can be considered for parole. Tony and Ken Cameron say Noy's sentence should never end.
We're serving a sentence. Our son has got no life. He was 21 years of age and lost his life. So I feel that he shouldn't have a life because he took away a life that was innocent.